Welcome. Today is in darkness. As you can see, no glowing orb above my head. Talking about darkness, there's no better time than now to talk about plot armor. Alright, today I want to talk about a little thing called plot armor. You know, we've all seen plot armor before, in the movies, in shows, in animes, you know, to the point where sometimes you really doubt whether a character would be alive if it wasn't for the pretense of plot. For example, I'm gonna make reference to One Piece. One Piece, the main character being Monkey D. Luffy. You know, I don't need to explain this to you. Let's just cut to a main fight. Kaido. You're telling me Luffy stepped into a ring with Kaido, got packed up 3 separate times, and not one time he died? Now let's take this example into real life. Now before you say, there's no plot in real life, does that really matter? When I throw a brick at a child, am I an emperor? And is the child Luffy? Will the child survive 3 times if I throw a brick at it? I don't think so. Which brings us to the whole pretense of, does plot ruin shows? And as my room gets darker and my camera quality proceeds to get worse and worse, I want to bring up the point that plot armor doesn't always ruin stories. It only ruins stories when it is dragged to the point where where's my plot armor? Only to the point where it starts to bring a story into a realm where it's genuinely not fun to watch anymore. Like, let me tell you about a little story called... Actually, I forgot what the story was, but you know, well, I can remember the plot off the top of my head. The plot is about a regression in a manhwa, which is basically a Korean version of a manga. Now this regression takes place when a guy dies and it is his last attempt to save the love of his life. Now, the story goes along, the love of his life absolutely hates him in this timeline, right? The funny thing is, this man is saving her from life-ending threats. And as we progress through the story, we begin to realize that even though this is meant to be a, well, hybrid slice of life, you realize the man cannot die. He is a living flesh person. And I don't know what the author was thinking, but making this guy unkillable to the point where I'm starting to doubt whether he really is human. The worst part is, at the end of the story, the man falls off a 6th floor building. And seemingly, I thought they did a good job, because when they pan to a photo of the man on the ground, he looks dead. Like, genuine dead. Right. And we see the love interest slowly realize, or I think she realized a bit before who he truly was or what he was doing, but she truly realized the sacrifices that he made for her, and she starts crying. Now, if they cut it off there, the story would have been perfectly fine. Instead, what the author chooses to do is he hits a 3-year time skip where the woman is standing by the guy's bed. And at this point, I'm like, okay, it's strange to have a hospital bed for a dead guy. Am I wrong? And she's observing the snow. And all of a sudden, as she turns around, the guy rips out his IV drip and says, "I'm alive." Like, what? You're telling me this man jumped off a 6th floor building, killed another guy in the process to save his girlfriend, and he's not dead? Like, genuinely, where did his life come from? Or how did it result in him not dying when he jumped off a 6th floor building? It would be right now if my towel just went on a 3-week break and came back and said, I wasn't dead. I was just taking a nap for 3 years. You know, sometimes it gets to the point where you genuinely don't know what to expect anymore. Because you're telling me that some guy, or girl, or whatever they want to be, steps into a realm of a story, and this supposed character goes through 50 trillion events, and somehow this character isn't dead by the end of all these traumatic experiences or life-ending experiences. Another example I can think of is Dragon Ball. Now, you might be thinking, Dragon Ball? Everyone in that show has plot armor. Yes, they do. But one of the worst examples I can think of is Piccolo. Now, you might be saying, oh, you're so dumb. Piccolo can regenerate. He's like an aura farmer or whatever. Let me tell you, even though Piccolo is an aura farmer, has anyone actually stopped and try and see if Piccolo truly has the same amount of plot armor as other characters? For example, in Dragon Ball Z, his arm got cut off by Raditz. At the end of that, he didn't die. I think the main one that stands out to me is the Frieza saga, where Frieza pops out of the river after Goku blasts him with a spirit bomb, which I guess was fine because Frieza's a villain and they needed to prolong his story. But then he pops out of the river, says, "Fuck you, Krillin," shoots Krillin 500 times, blowing him up in the process, and then shoots Piccolo, where you would assume is his heart. Lo and behold, Piccolo's not dead. Piccolo is alive. Like, to be honest, I get that the man just got revived by the Dragon Balls, but you cannot tell me that when you shoot someone in the heart they don't die. And as my camera is getting darker and darker, I realize there's truly no such thing as plot armor in real life. So be careful, kids. The next time someone shoots you in the heart, you gotta remember, you're not Piccolo.